Yo, Annabelle, you need to get in the photo. I met her.
Perfect.
Nice.
Coca-Cola's in there.
By the way, what are we talking about today? Because
poetry.
I'm like, bro.
Welcome to the Metaforecast. This is a special episode because we are being sponsored by the lovely Cien and her company
LAUNCHLEMONADE.
Ooh, okay. So, this podcast is a special one because before I had Filipino poets, but this is Filipino Poets Guest Part 2. But we have some new people that I've encountered this year. Let's go from this side. We have Justin Isip. Is that how I pronounced it right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then we have Anabelle Whitecross.
Yeah.
And Cien Solon.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I memorized the names. And these are people that I've met during my time in the poetry scene. But we're not just going to be talking about poetry because, like the other podcast, we're talking about Filipinos in surprising spaces. So Justin's an environmentalist, I believe.
That's correct.
Anabelle is in the army. And Cien is in the tech space.
Yeah,
I
in the
believe
AI
so.
and tech space.
Okay, and we're going to break it down. So, but yeah, like how are you guys? You guys good?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Good, man. Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah. What's the most interesting thing that's happened so far getting here or just this week?
The past couple of weeks, I was invited to the Lord Mayor's house
Okay.
in Mansion House to talk about AI. So that was quite fun. Yeah, that's me.
So for me this week, I found out that I was selected for the Army Inter-Services squad for rugby.
Congratulations.
Wow.
So it's just the Inter-Services is when the Army play against the Navy and the RAF, and a big competition. It happens every year, so it's what we build towards in our
Yeah.
season. And I got the email on Monday morning. So yeah,
and
that's
you
cool.
just recovered, right?
Yeah, so this is my first season back from like a long time injury. So yeah, it's good stuff.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was rehabilitation like?
Oh, it was long. It was
Okay.
long and it was sad, but lots of calf raises.
Yeah.
making them Filipino calves even bigger.
What did you mash up? Your leg or?
Yeah, it was my Achilles. So
Yeah, that's like the one you don't want to mash up, right?
yeah.
That's that and that is that ACL as well? Or was that something different?
no, that's
Okay.
the different one. But yeah,
Okay, that's
Yeah.
another major one. That's nuts.
But it's healed up now.
yeah,
Nice.
getting
Yeah.
better, getting loads better. So, what about you?
Been on a couple trips actually. I was in Lisbon for my 29th birthday
Okay.
a couple
Nice.
weeks
Happy
ago.
birthday.
A little
Yeah.
solo trip. That was nice. And then my flatmate just had her 30th birthday last weekend.
Mm.
Rented out this farmhouse in the Welsh countryside. So I was there over the weekend. Just catching up now, getting back to work.
That's sick. For me, I just watched WrestleMania. I was watching Cody Rhodes versus The Rock, and Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, The Rock, and I forgot the other guy, Seth Rollins. I don't know if you guys watch wrestling.
No.
Yeah.
It's a luxury
Even.
and privilege to have the time to watch
Okay.
wrestling.
Yeah, so I was watching that. That's probably the reason why I'm a bit out of it as well, because I was up late, and then I was rushing it. But yeah, like that's it. What is amazing me, right, since encountering you guys, is there are a variety of things that you guys are in. Like I've never met anyone that's doing environmentalism. I've never met anyone that's in the army, and I've never met anyone in the tech space. I know people that do websites and stuff, but that's like the extent of it. So, like, do you guys want to kind of individually kind of tell the people like how you guys got into that, or like what interested you as?
Sure, I can go ahead. Yeah, I think I've always been into nature and the environment
Okay.
as a kid, and I would say that was from my mum. She would just take me out and encourage me to be outdoors and not be afraid of it. But then I kind of dropped out of school when I was younger, and then realised I wanted to go back to school, and I had this roundabout way of getting back in. Like I dropped out when I was 16, started working, and then went back to school when I was about 20. But I started with sports science, and then on a crazy sort of roundabout way ended up doing zoology. And then I just took one trip to South America during my undergraduate degree, fell in love with tropical rainforests and just the beauty of those sorts of habitats. They're amazing. And then just kept studying. got onto a PhD program, and now that's kind of where I'm at now.
Very cool.
3 years
So
into
cool.
my PhD,
Nice.
and gonna finish up soon. Yeah.
I mean, was it just like do you have a certain favorite animal, or was that just our environment?
There are a few. I mean, I've worked on lots of different groups. From the Philippines, one of my favorite animals is the Philippine eagle.
Okay.
If you know that one, it's quite.
Yeah, it's from my city.
Oh, right, that's the mascot.
Amazing, beautiful bird. Oh my god, crazy wingspan.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just amazing. I'd love to see
When I
one
was
in the wild.
when I was a kid, I lived. We weren't too far from the sanctuary. Sometimes the eagles would escape the cages.
Oh, amazing.
And then I'd bike around the subdivision. It's what we called like a
The
gated
compound.
Compound,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'd see
So
sometimes
you've
like
seen them in the
eagles
wild.
swoop in the wild. It's quite,
That's really
it
cool.
wasn't wild, but like just escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool
Amazing.
animals.
Yeah.
And you, Anabelle, you kind of obviously you grew up in Scotland, so that's entirely
Yeah.
another thing as well. Because yeah.
Yeah, it's
talk about that.
yeah, I mean, I was born in Scotland, raised in Scotland, but both my parents are Filipino. So I just kind of grew up with this majority Scottish culture, but then inside the house, you know, we live with my grandparents, so my Lola would actually, she would, you know, make all the smelly foods and, you know, and it would always, and, you know, I call her Lola, like, you know,
Yeah.
and it was always very normal to me. And, you know, we'd have rice with every meal. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I just got so locked out
Standard.
that I didn't realise that's not how everyone else
Yeah.
did things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my granddad, so my mum's stepdad, he was in the army, in the Royal Signals for like 12 years. And, you know, when I started thinking about my career, I was like, okay, I want to do something adventurous. You know, I've always been a little bit wild, a little bit, you know, naughty, and I always love meeting people and travelling, so I thought, well, maybe I'll just join the army. So, yeah, I did that when I was 17.
Wow.
And, you know, 11 years later, I'm still here.
Mhm.
And I'm loving it. You know, the opportunity to travel is really good. The opportunity for sports is really good. I found rugby in the army, so I never even considered it. You know, Glasgow's very football orientated. Never interested me. And yeah, fell on rugby, played my first game. Someone hit me like a freight train, and I got up and I was like, do you know what? That was great.
It's a brutal sport.
Yeah, it's very physical,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Very
I woke up the
physical.
next day, I was like, why are my wrists sore? I was like,
Oh
my whole
my
body
goodness.
hurts.
Yeah.
And it was, honestly, I never looked back. I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with rugby.
Wow.
And you know, I enjoyed it, and I think the army gave me that life and that insight, because then I started playing, you know, rugby at like a civvy club. So my first club was actually Gloucester Hartbury Women, when I was before I actually moved to Gloucester, and that was before they were in the Premiership. I don't know if any of you follow rugby, but they actually, Gloucester Hartbury, they won the Premiership last year, you know, after building for all those years. So, you know, it was really nice to watch them win and know that I was a part of that in the early stages.
Wow.
And I think now, for a while I was very much looking towards maybe trying to look at breaking in up to Scotland in the national team. And then I kind of fell off that a little bit, and I started looking towards the Philippines.
Yes.
So I know quite a few of the girls who play for the Philippine
Cool.
national team, the Lady Volcanoes.
How'd you meet them?
It's a really funny story. When I first started looking into it, I just went on the website, got in touch with someone. They messaged me on Facebook, obviously, and he was like, the guy was like, oh, there's another girl who plays for the Philippines who lives in England. Like, I'll put you in touch with her. So he just like dropped us in a group chat together. We got chatting away, and then it took about 3 years for us to meet, and we ended up finally at the same tournament together.
Wow.
During the summer, like playing sevens, and we met up, and now I see her all the time. But she obviously played for the national team, so she knew a few of the girls. And last year I went to the Philippines on my own for the first time, and that was really scary. And I got quite nervous about it. And when I landed in London, I was like, okay, like I can do this. Not London, Manila. And I was like, okay, I can do this. Like I'll be fine, you know. And I was like, why am I so scared? And I was like, hang on a minute, I'm a rugby girl. I was like, let me just message like one of the girls and just see who's around. So I messaged Tanya back in England, and she was like, oh, I'll put it in the group chat. And 5 minutes later, like someone had already replied to her and like, yeah, I'll come and meet her. 10 minutes after that, she was in my DMs like, where are you? Like, I'll come and get you, come out for a drink. And like an hour later, after I sorted my stuff, she was outside my hostel, like waiting to take me to the bar, meet all our friends, and we had a drink. And it was, honestly, it was amazing. So, and then, you know, kind of following that, I ended up meeting all the rest of them as well. And I went back this year, and I went and trained with a local Philippine Eagles, actually, the Manila Eagles rugby team. And yeah, just trying to make connections that way. But I don't have a passport yet, so that's kind of why I'm not quite there at the minute. But
you're getting there.
Yeah, because I think for me, rugby's, I love like the idea of, you know, helping grow the sport, because women's rugby has really been up and coming for the past few years, and you know, being in the UK, the scene here has shot up massively, and then watching it happen around the world, and I want to help do that in the Philippines. You know, I want to bring Filipinos, you know, to a different sport. Obviously, we all love basketball. It's all basketball, but also we could play rugby too.
Yeah.
You know,
I think so too.
And I think that's really cool.
No. So one of the more famous like Filipino rugby stars, I think he's in up north. I think there's one, because I had a colleague whose son was really into rugby. He played for, must have been Sheffield or something. But anyway, his dream is to become a rugby star in the Philippines.
Really? Okay.
So I think there's, and then he
Pick
told
him
me
up.
about this like Filipino, popular half Filipino rugby national player.
Oh, Marcus Smith.
Him.
Yeah, he plays for England. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Is that half Philly?
Yeah, so he's half Philly, and his brother actually plays in the Philippines as well. So, but because he was like, I don't know if he was like raised here or born here or whatever, but he's got his mum's Filipino, I think. So, and he was talking about recently about at some point, you know, later down his career when he's finished with England, about switching codes and going back and giving back to the Philippines.
Okay.
So, and I'm about that, you know, growing the sport, and we want to empower young girls and young boys, to be fair, but just young people in general to come into something in a space that's not normally, you know, designed for us, I guess, you know.
I think that's so cool, because obviously rugby they do not wear pads. It's not like American football.
Yeah.
And the fact that obviously, just obviously when people picture women in sport, they kind of think tennis or something. But rugby is such a full-on contact sport that for you to push that will just push even just the idea of what women can do in generally physically. Like, because people never see women do those kind of sports or think on the top of their head that that's the sport that they would go into or that they'd be interested in. But the fact that you're doing that is amazing.
I know.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Definitely breeds independence, and I love it.
People gonna think twice about messing with y'all. Like, you know, we can't take them on. That's
military plus rugby.
It's a tough one, but it's good fun. It's good fun. Yeah,
I love that.
It's amazing that you are able to merge your passion for rugby with your passion for empowering young people.
Yeah.
And a part of your identity, which has been from the Philippines. That's very cool.
That's the special part, I think. I've always really been about, you know, empowering people and just picking people up. Like, you know, this world is so negative all the time. People just need more positivity, and I've just really, over the past few years, really been trying to like embrace just telling people they look good and telling people, you know, they were good at something, and, you know, they just make me happy just because, you know, not everyone gets to hear it all the time.
Yeah. How about you, Shan? How did you move into like the tech space?
So I was raised born and raised in the Philippines, but I've always been tech savvy, like and creative as well. So, in like 6th grade, I first edited my video, like, and then put together some music, like cut music, and then put them together. Like I did that in 6th grade, and then I started coding a little bit as well, but not a lot. But
MySpace.
And building websites, like landing pages and primary. Maybe I've been 13, 14 when I started like coding a little bit. And then I studied media, philosophy, and English in uni. And with my media courses, I edited videos and we had film courses and photography.
Nice.
And then after that, I kind of just decided to live my best life and travel the world and just get drunk and party.
Good choice.
I wasn't really into like my adulting mode. And so I lived in the States, I lived in China. And then when I finally moved to the UK, I kind of said to myself, all right, it's time to like do something with our lives. And I was set on like going digital. Like digital's the next thing. So my first few roles were around digital marketing, managed social media accounts, built websites.
Nice.
And then I started owning like products like CRM, CSM systems, which naturally progressed me to product management, which was my first few roles. And that, my mom doesn't know what that means. And I've been in product for like the last 7
I was
years.
gonna say I don't know what that means. Either.
Nah, I don't either. So-
But essentially,
Sounds
you
good.
manage developers, a group of developers to like build an app or deliver like a system. So I've been doing that for a while in the fintech space, training chatbots. I think the first chatbot that I trained was in 2018, when you literally have to input all of the data in an Excel file and like do variations of it and train it like for months and months on end. And then I also, a few roles after that, I deployed, I know I'm boring you guys, but
No,
go for
we're
it.
interested.
I'm interested.
Tell us.
I deployed affordability credit, risk models for big companies that have made loads of millions at the back of really smart integrations. And now that AI has been made accessible to all by making it cheap and like making it really easy to train, I have now ended up in kind of like democratizing AI to people who weren't able to afford it then, didn't understand it then, and really kind of provide a platform where they can explore and monetize from AI. So that's kind of my journey as to how I ended up in like this space.
And your new startup, the Launch Lemonade, like what's the premise behind that?
So my co-founder and I were quite similar. Like we've growing up, we tried different things. Like I was a radio DJ. I sold brownies before when I was a kid.
Sick.
You know, we had our own version of lemonade stands. And Launch Lemonade is everyone's AI lemonade stand,
Okay.
where they can start to learn and monetize from AI.
That's really cool. I like the idea of democratizing something, just like for the people. It reminds me of Henry Ford that made the car.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had the option to kind of like the pattern or whatever, like just to keep it for the rich, but he decided to just like, everyone's gonna be driving cars. So that's the reason why everyone has a car. When like the idea of an alternative future where the idea of a car is just a personal vehicle for the rich is very weird to me.
Yeah.
But the idea that you're democratizing this thing is amazing.
Well, that's our mission, because a lot of people are predicted to lose their jobs and their roles, and a lot of people are being called to upskill so that they can future-proof their livelihoods. Now, we can wait and see how things progress, or we can actually be more proactive and take the steps now to again like future-proof our livelihoods.
When you look at people in the tech space, like recently what comes to mind is Canva, and that's actually owned by a Filipino, like she's
half
half
Australian.
Filipino, Australian. Like that must be quite inspiring, or a really good example of what you and other people after you, other women after you, could achieve in the tech space, especially Filipino or Asian backgrounds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is there's a woman called Nicole. I forgot her last name, but she runs a brand called Fintech is Femme, and she's Filipino, and they're in America. I think they're kind of like her partner is also Filipino Mexican, and they are making it really big in New York right now. And like the founder of Canva. So there are Filipinos in not just the tech but like digital space. Like one of my best friends, she is being awarded like Filipino Youth of the Year, something like that.
Whoa.
Nice.
Filipino man, yeah. So she went home to get the award, but she's basically like one of the biggest photographers in Dubai. She's photographed like Mariah Carey.
Okay.
There are a lot of Filipinos that are doing a lot of cool things within the tech and digital space.
Yeah. That's it.
And yeah, I'm really excited for it.
Me being a London-born Filipino, like seeing us move into entrepreneurial spaces, like with Omar doing, you know, like restaurants and stuff, and branching out, like doing Mama Sons and doing Rama Ramen. Like these are really exciting spaces and frontiers, especially when, like, if you're first or second generation, like there's other cultures in London that have been here longer who are already starting businesses like from like 20 years ago. And just to see us move into this entrepreneurial space and leaving that mindset of being a worker and just, you know, kind of just making it out on our own and becoming established business owners is amazing. So all of this is very inspiring, and I'm so excited that you guys are doing that. Do you find that, obviously, when you start something, it's quite scary? Like, do you guys have any apprehensions, imposter syndrome, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I get imposter syndrome quite a lot, actually. Only recently, though, I think just from the setbacks recently, especially with rugby. Yeah. To be honest with you, dealing with it is just a case of believing in yourself, like just reminding yourself and just being like, actually, no, I'm bad, you know, like I'm good at this, and I deserve to be here because I earned the right, you know. Just remembering all the hard work and the sweat that went in, you know, in the years prior, and also just, you know, all the emotional, like, I wouldn't say turmoil, but emotional, like, speed bumps that I had to get through, that nobody else was really getting me through. I had to get through them myself, and you know, that's just reminder. I reflect a lot, I think, is what I do. I like to reflect.
Do you think that that's you know, being in sports and also being in the military has given you kind of like that mental toughness? Or
yeah, definitely. I think I never really noticed maybe that it wasn't a thing already until quite recently, but yeah, I think being able to look back on sort of my career, look back on my rugby career, and that kind of reminds me as well that it's fine. Like I can do all these other things, and I can let someone hit me like hit me like a
Not
car.
like that, but you know, just take on that.
And you know, if I can get back up, I've got the physical resilience. You know, it's just about building that mental resilience. But I mean, I think that it's really important as well to know that despite, you know, whatever history someone has, is that, you know, mental resilience is definitely not, it's not linear, it's up and down. I've had stages where I've been incredibly resilient, and then stages, you know, after that where I've not been incredibly resilient. And it's, you know, it's okay to just give yourself a minute to just take a breath.
I actually I played basketball, so it was one of those
Okay.
Filipinos.
Yeah.
I can't cook, I can't sing, and I can't dance.
Whoa.
But I can
Wow,
play basketball.
breaking all the stereotypes.
Yeah, that's it.
Breaking all the stereotypes.
All of the stereotypes, but I
Yeah.
can play. Well, I was a basketball player for about 10, 11 years.
Nice.
I played nationals as well.
Okay.
Amazing.
Come on.
Okay.
I like that.
So I think like having an athletic background actually helps with imposter syndrome, because it trains you to want to win, show up to win, but if you don't, you're gonna show up the next day and want to do the same, and you're gonna want to do the same thing again.
Yeah. Is it that because of the discipline? The discipline as in involved?
The discipline, but also like it's a different mentality when you're an athlete, because you are literally trained to want to win. So if you don't win, you're a loser. But the thing is, if you do lose, you're gonna have to do it the next day again, wanting to win and have that kind of like mental drive to perform and show up, and then you just do that, rinse and repeat.
Consistency.
Yeah. So I think like it does help. But also I think being a poet and like having the feelings, you know, thinking life's too short, and having that romantic kind of outlook in life helps. Because if you're thinking, oh, life's too short, I might die tomorrow anyway, you're gonna be like, you have that outlook in life. That just, you know what, I'm just gonna live my life to I'm just gonna do it.
That's actually sick.
I mean, definitely in the kind of academic research science space, there's a lot of, I would say I've dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome, which I think is very normal. It's just about how you deal with it. Everyone's got their own talents, and everyone is unique in what they bring to research and science. So I'm not sure where to take this, but a lot of spaces are predominantly white, and there are let's just say there are some issues around that in terms of diversity and inclusion. So kind of what Anabelle said, which is know yourself, know what you've been through, know what you've done to get to where you are. That's helped me a lot in terms of just managing that pressure. I think pressure, this kind of quote of pressure makes diamonds. The idea that the way that you handle the pressure is probably the most important, I would say. So I felt it, but I agree with Shen as well in terms of fitness and kind of competitive sports and athletic things. There's a lot of lessons which you can transfer from what you learn while you're competing or while you're even just playing sport, and this idea of losing is a part of winning. You got to keep losing in order to win. So how do you deal with that, and how do you come back, let's say, is a big part of that. So applying that, I like to keep quite fit and play a few different sports. So
what kind of sports do you play?
Mostly I started with like Chinese kung fu when I was like 16.
Like wushu and that.
I was actually doing Wing Chun.
Oh, is that sorry, I think it was Wing Chun.
The one with the rope dart.
Ip Man?
I started with that because I was like, I need to discipline my mindset, 'cause I'm a bit wild.
Okay, wow, okay.
I was like, I need some discipline in my life. So I started doing martial arts, and then I got more into boxing, kickboxing, mixed martial arts, and calisthenics, a lot of calisthenics.
Yeah, I just saw your page, and I was like, I just saw you do with that video where you're like on the pole, and then you just like, kind of like flip up, and that's mad.
Oh,
so calisthenics as well.
This guy's fit. So
I'm okay.
I was going to say, have you looked into like any FMA?
I don't know what FMA is.
Filipino martial arts?
It's like a screamer.
I know about a screamer, No, I haven't tried any.
No.
It'd be cool to try that.
It's on my list.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my friend who used to go out with Filipino, like he knows a screamer. And the Maharlika thing, I don't know if you guys know Maharlika UK. They're a Filipino platform that...
Yes.
So you can actually apply maybe next year, because I know J Cage is doing Maharlika this year. So they mix two Filipino artists from two different disciplines. They pair them together and they create something from scratch. So that's really cool. So like obviously his spoken word with the music from the artist. I was actually going from like a screamer. I don't know why I go. Oh yeah. A screamer. Actually, that's it. The guy that was in the first wave with me, I think is Paulie D. He does a screamer. He teaches a screamer, and he lives in North London. So, if you want to, he's actually Chinese, but was raised grew up in Philippines.
Nice.
So he's got like this interesting aspect. Like he's Filipino, but he's also like fully Chinese, I think. So like to learn that from him would be sick. Like, and he's amazing. But you should definitely watch his video. It's on YouTube.
We should do a class.
Yeah,
we
do a
should
class.
all
I'm gonna film
We can write poetry and then
Poetry.
whack each
poetry and
other.
scream. Yeah,
Because I think my dad had some of these sticks growing up.
yeah. I'm sure he did. Like,
Whack me up, you know.
yeah. I mean, usually I got whacked up with a slipper. But,
Slipper,
yeah.
belt.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, discipline was different.
It was all sorts. Shoe,
yeah.
hanger,
Oh yeah,
slipper.
Just anything with a
And it's
solid,
ruler.
Yeah.
anything that was solid
Just
enough
throw
to
something
hurt.
at you.
that proves how resourceful they are.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like when we're growing up, when my dad decided to do DIY, it was special, like it was, and also stressful at the same time. Like, you know, Filipinos just create contraptions.
Yeah.
Like, just if the table is wobbly, they'll just like put something underneath it. But something more complicated, like trying to keep something up on a shelf, they'll like create something so crazy that it works, but it's not conventional and it doesn't make sense and it defies the laws of science. Like, it's like, so when my dad was in DIY mode, I was like, I just left it to it. Like, I just didn't want to.
I think my dad was just terrible at DIY, to be honest.
Oh,
I think he tried to do a lot of things, but he just just didn't have the skills.
What I like to explore, especially with the Filipino episodes, is like your experience, because obviously the diaspora is crazy. Like, you're born and raised in the Philippines, then you know, moving from city to city, country to country, full Filipino, but in Scotland, and I think you
Born and raised, London raised,
and same as me, yeah. So like, yeah, what was your experiences like being Filipino? Anyone can go.
I actually want to ask Justin as well.
Oh yeah, go
like
for it.
An added question to that is, in the academia, like you said earlier about the imposter syndrome, did you feel like there was some sort of bias that got manifested, even subconsciously maybe, but against you because you were Filipino?
I think there's a pressure that anyone who enters into a predominantly white space to assimilate, to fit in, right?
Yeah.
So I've definitely felt that pressure in different ways, and I think as I've got older, I've just got better at being true to the other parts of me. You know, the Filipino part, the urban Londoner, born and raised, and making sure I'm still being true to those different parts of my identity in these spaces.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you say assimilate, you mean like, is it quite physical, as in how you talk or how you dress up, or?
I think it's unique to everyone.
Yeah.
Depends what, you know, just this kind of pressure to fit in or to not stand out or to look different or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So that can show up in various ways. I guess in the academic space, it's mostly really smart old white people, especially at that higher level, you know, when you're talking about like professors and senior researchers. And so there might be a pressure to talk a certain way or to, you know, seem like you're really smart or not seem stupid, these sorts of things.
Or have the correct telephone manner.
Exactly, correct telephone manner, and so just being aware of that as a Filipino. You know, I haven't met many I've met a couple, which I'm grateful for, but not many Filipinos in the kind of ecology, environmental space, I would say. So I did a little bit of work. That's one of my other passions, is kind of trying to increase ethnic diversity within the environmental sector.
That'd be sick.
So I work with like young school groups, trying to be like, especially kids from kind of deprived, poor areas, council estates. I grew up on a council estate in southwest London, and just showing them they can do it. You know, if you want to get into research, you want to get into science or whatever it is, you can do it, because I've done it.
Do you think, obviously we talked about Filipino stereotypes, like, obviously when you think of environment and stuff, that like Filipino doesn't even enter the
and that's
brains.
the thing, right?
Yeah,
that's
the diagram stuff.
Or even in being in London, we're so disconnected from nature.
Oh yeah,
that's
true.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Concrete,
so how getting young kids to reconnect with nature, reconnect with their environment, understand how, you know, we know that nature is good for our mental well-being, and it provides us with so many other things as well. So trying to foster that within these deprived areas and show kids that this is a career path if they want to, if it's something that they're interested in, it's something that's important to me. So
I love that.
That's actually really good. Because literally, I think we're literally just entering the first stages of seeing. So you're literally kind of like the first wave of you know, people of color just entering their environmental and ecology space. I don't know if Anna, like, is there quite a few Asians in the army?
From my experience, there is quite a lot of people of colour, because we recruit from the Commonwealth nations as well.
Oh, yeah,
so we do get quite a lot. I mean, it's difficult. From my experience, it's still a minority. Women are still a minority, and people of colour are still a minority. But there is definitely more, especially in different sectors. So for me, like in the Royal Signals, it's a little bit more, suppose they say it's a little bit more technical. So there's almost less. I found that there's less people of colour, from my experience that I've met. Filipinos, honestly, I've met 2. In my 11-year career, I've met 2 Filipinos.
In the army?
Yeah. So one of them, crazy actually, she came through the same recruitment office as me. I actually met her before I joined, and then we ended up same like trades, same, well, not trades, same, like she was in the Royal Signals as well.
Yeah.
Similar ages. I think our birthday was like a day apart.
Wow.
That's cool.
And we spent a bit of time together in training, so yeah, she was really cool. And then it was a guy I actually met very recently through a mutual friend who's also Filipino, and he's also in the Royal Signals. So I don't know if it's maybe a signals thing for us Filipinos, but you know, getting into IT and communications. But yeah, there's I don't know, like I think it's difficult because I tick a lot of niche boxes. You know, Filipino and a woman and queer, and you know, these are lots of different boxes that
Diverse.
Oh yeah, just diverse.
I love that though.
So,
I mean, it's needed though. Obviously.
yeah.
You're inspiring so many people already, and like just even me doing the poetry thing, like it was just me for the longest time until I met like Jade, and then eventually Teddy, and then JK. And I think it's because like you just need someone there first, and like just seeing someone is enough. And then even if they don't do it straight away, it's like it marinates and it becomes normalized. And then obviously now I'm seeing. I mean, I've come across you guys in the last, like I've known you since Instagram. Since like, you know, shits and scribbles and stuff.
That's
so,
right, yeah.
So I've known you, kind of like known you first, but obviously like you were in Scotland at the time. So
Gloucester.
Yeah. So it was obviously there was a distance thing, but now like it's just seeing you guys now. It's just like, okay, yeah, I just gotta keep going. And especially you with the tech space, like just gotta keep going. Be the first brown face there. And like, oh, okay, like maybe I can do this, or you know, once you start doing TED talks, it's game over.
Yeah.
You know?
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you see yourself doing a TED talk at some point?
Yeah, it's on my
Yeah.
list of
see
things.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be sick.
It's on the list.
We'll be there.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll see.
cool.
In the Philippines,
Yeah.
right? Like even when you're in the Philippines, if you're doing a certain craft, if you've got a foreign counterpart in the same space, like I remember competing as we had this thing in school where we had a DJ competition, like who's the best VJ, that's it, video DJ. And I was competing against Filipino, but she was born and raised in Canada.
Okay.
And I won second to her, and I was like, I don't but she was good, like, but she, you know, she had the accent, she was like, obviously that's her standard of what good looks like. And then when I did the poetry circuits in the Philippines, my counterparts were also white people. And I never won against them, but I don't think, maybe because they're better than me, but there's still that like feeling of being second class in your own country. And then when I started traveling, when I lived in the States, I remember this one time distinctively, I was in a party, and the host was like an advisor to a former president, like really big house, really cool house, and we started talking, and I love talking about Philippine history.
No.
And then I was asked, like, so where do you go to uni? And then when I told them, actually, I went to the Philippines. I studied in the Philippines. Like, you could already sense kind of like how the perception changed. And then when I moved here to the UK, I'll never forget this. I got in a cab in Manchester, and I didn't even say anything, but the driver said, "Which hospital are you going to?" And I was like, "Oh, excuse me?" And then he was like, you're Filipino, right? I was like, "Yeah." "So you're a nurse?" And I was like,
That's wild.
Yeah. I was like, "No, I'm not. I need to go to this office." But yeah, like you even in China as well, but not so much actually.
Yeah.
But you would hear stories here and there, but I didn't feel it there specifically. But yeah, you kind of see discrimination and bias.
It's a tightrope, because I think obviously I'm very proud of what Philippines has done is like we supply the world with the most amount of nurses, like to the US, especially since then, I think before the 1970s and stuff like that. But obviously we were cheap labor at the time as well. But when it comes to nurses, like Filipinos straight away, and because we're so good, like it's like the first thing that pops in people's mind. But that also acts as a double-edged sword. Is like oh we're not only just that. So I've always, whenever we talked about this earlier, like oh you're Filipino, so you can sing, you can dance, you can do all these things. And then when it comes to us, our parents encouraging us to do that when we're young, but then when we want to do it as a career choice, it's like oh no, be a nurse, be a lawyer, be a doctor, kind of thing. Obviously that was something that I experienced as when I was younger with my parents as well. Like, did you guys ever experience that, or was that?
I think I was quite lucky.
Yeah.
Growing up in Scotland, it was more so Scottish cultured, so
Yeah.
it was pretty much a case of do whatever you want. As soon as I started expressing interest into the military, obviously my granddad was the only one with experience with that,
Yeah.
so he kind of guided me towards something that was a little bit more traded rather than something that was like more brawn and no brain, if that makes sense, because it just means I'm now set up with career options if I decide to leave. So yeah, I think I was pretty lucky in the sense that there wasn't really any expectation to be anything, as long as it was something. Do you know what I mean?
Just be something.
Yeah,
Yes.
be something.
Yeah.
Like be something, but just not necessarily anything specific.
Yeah.
You know, most of my family were quite not against, but they weren't too pleased with the idea of me going off to the army at 17. But you know, there wasn't anything for me there. I needed to spread my wings. So yeah, I was lucky.
Here you are.
Was there a lot of pressure? From my dad, I would say. So my parents split up when I was 10. So there was a lot of pressure from my dad, but my mum was very liberal, super liberal, and they used to argue about different values, different value system. My dad was like old school, traditional, hardcore.
Yeah, that sounds like my dad.
Yeah. So you know where I'm coming from. So there was that clash between him and my mum, which was more like she would have, she wouldn't just be with Filipinos. She had non-Filipino friends. She embraced British culture, and there was a lot of conflict around that. So growing up, there was some issues there. But after they split, then my mum was super liberal, so there was no pressure.
Yeah, okay.
She was just like, just make sure you do what you need to do.
You don't die.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be the best at whatever you want to be. Be whatever you want to do. I agree with that. I think that's probably a nice mindset for a parent to have. Just like you can do whatever you want to do, but just if you really want to do this, like just I'll support you. Do what you got to do. It is going to be tricky, but that comes with anything that you want to do and have a passion for.
I was really naughty when I was a kid. Like I was
Just
a
a rule
headache.
breaker.
Yeah. I was a headache, and so my mom was just like, just don't die or just don't end up in prison.
Okay.
And then
Don't get a tattoo.
Good standards.
Yeah, I used to don't get a tattoo. Don't get anyone pregnant. That was my thing as well.
Yeah. And then my mom would just like, she was like, I just want you to have a simple life. Like, I don't care. I don't care if you're gonna make it. I don't care. Like, you just, find a simple man, just live a happy life. Like, and I was like, no.
No.
I'm not gonna live a simple life. I mean, my dad was very encouraging. I think both perspectives kind of just gave me that security. Like, I can just do whatever I want. But which it's a privilege. I'm so lucky because my dad was just like, just explore things, try things out. I actually, on my first year in uni, I actually considered doing nursing and then proceeding to becoming a doctor, which was like standard.
Yeah.
And then after like my first semester of and it wasn't even like the proper nursing stuff yet. I think I had one experience with the needle. My mom was like, I don't think that's for you, I think, you're a writer, you should be in media.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right, Mom. So I moved right away. I was like, philosophy's for me, I want to think.
So in terms of poetry, like obviously you guys are working jobs and stuff, and I guess like you use poetry as an outlet to express yourselves, which is something which is not really expressed like as a growing up as a Filipino. Like you're not encouraged to you're encouraged to sing, dance, whatever, but you're not encouraged to write or express yourself in that way, to journal. I don't know, maybe that's just because our parents are so focused on studies and stuff, but like how did you guys, what's your guys' relationship with writing and poetry? Like how did that manifest?
Why don't you start?
I started writing in primary school, so I have this poem from primary school, and it's not very good, but the fact that they felt to put it on like red cards and put it on the wall was enough for me to believe I was good. And it doesn't matter from a young age whether I'm good or not. It's what the child believes at the time, and they carry that in. So from there, I carried on. Oh, I got this thing for English, or I got this thing for writing. So when it influenced my choices in what I took for GCSE, so I did drama, English, and then that made me. I actually wrote. There was a competition at the Royal Court Theatre in Chelsea. And I wrote a scene and I got picked. So that scene got played out by 2 actors on the day, and they printed out tickets and stuff, and I was in the newspaper with my classmates in my drama thing. So that encouraged me to do work experience at the Royal Court when we had to do work experience around what age you have to be
like
in secondary
15,
school?
16?
Yeah, 15, 16, yeah. So that encouraged that, which then encouraged me to do English and theatre studies in sixth form, but also with the pressure from my parents to do chemistry and biology, because my dad wanted me to be, if I wasn't going to be a lawyer, like be a doctor, because he thought because I was so good at English, he thought I could be a lawyer, but I was also good at science, and he was like, oh, be a doctor. And then it was until sixth form when I kept failing chemistry, I was like, no, I'm just gonna quit it. So I quit as an AS, and then I picked up media and psychology, and then I took that to uni, and then I did English lit and creative writing, and that was like where I wrote my best poetry. So poems like Eternally Monogamous, Evermore Unfaithful, My Navy, and some other poems. Those were like my best ones, and then obviously they were just sitting in my phone or on my computer until I started doing work 9 to 5 in an office, retail as well, until the pandemic hit. I was like, what am I gonna do? So I thought, fuck it, I'm already unemployed because I quit my office job in 2018, and I was just kind of doing whatever in 2019 to just retail jobs and stuff to kind of get by. And I thought, if the pandemic's here and I'm gonna die, why not I just do what I want to do? So I already started attending poetry events, but I wasn't performing yet. And then when the pandemic hit, all the poetry open mics were online. So like I think I met you online with the Instagram lives.
That's how I started as well.
So I literally
joined my live.
I was on your live when you were talking to Hazel as well. So yeah, literally I was just watching people share, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna share, because it's scary performing on stage, but reading in your room is not so much. So that was like a baby step for me, and then I started doing more, and then I started getting a following, and then I thought after the lockdown lifted, I decided to go back to BYOB and start performing, and then obviously one performance became another performance, which became a headline, which then became me doing a poetry event with Teddy, which then became me running BYOB, which became me running other poetry events, which became now I'm working on a festival for Ealing in the next few months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Nice.
I'm producing a New Gen festival. It'll be out in like June, July. So I've got a Zoom call at some point next week to finalize that, see what the budget is, and then plan workshops and things. So that's actually cool.
Nice.
And then also I'm doing cinematic verses with Jax, who's a poet who gets funding anyway. So yeah, and that's literally just grown into this thing, which stems from this initial belief of being me in primary school, thinking that I was okay. I was good at writing, but I know I wasn't because I read the poem. I've still got it, but I was like, but that's why it's so important to encourage people.
Yeah.
Not to, like, you can give them constructive criticism, but when you're in primary school and in secondary school, it's like, it's not even about being good. It's about just getting into the flow of it, because no one ever starts off good. Like, you start off at 0 and then you climb your way up. And if you like the process, it's about enjoying it, and then you get good afterwards. But at first, it's about expression. So that's how I got into doing poetry and how I met you guys. So it's really good.
I've always written. I think my dad loved taking my favorite gifts or toys as a kid, like 2 years old, 3 years old, were books. I love like fairy tales. Like, I had all the collections of like all the fairy tales, and for Christmas I've always asked for pens and notebooks, and my parents encouraged that. So like, because my dad didn't finish. I think he didn't finish high school. He's never admitted this, but I don't think he's finished secondary school. I think he ran away when he was 11. I know that. And then he started like, finding all these odd jobs selling bread and cigarettes and like random
hustling. That's what Filipino is.
Hustling. And so but then when he finally made it and ran his own like business, he was part of these companies. He loved collecting like Reader's Digest and like magazines, and he would read them, and he encouraged me writing and reading. So he bought me all the books, all the pens, and and so I was already writing poetry and letters and journaling ever since I was a kid. Like, I remember writing my dad the first poem that I wrote for him when I was 3. And I was part of the school paper. I was in magazines and local newspapers as well for my poetry and my essays. So yeah, I think it was just part of me. And then when I fell in love, I think the poetry died a little bit because of the kind of like the community I was surrounded in. It was uncool and and then last year I felt lost. I was like, I've been working for these big companies, like all tech, and I wanted to kind of regain a bit like of me back, and so I started writing again.
The poetry that you write, how would you describe it? Because it's very in terms of like, women expressing themselves in a more kind of like sexual liberated way. Like, how obviously being Asian, being in the, like, obviously like, that's because Filipinos are very conservative.
Yeah.
Like, did you, I mean, has your parents like heard your poetry or
some
like,
of it? Yeah, my mom would like follow me on Insta and like just listen. But I think I've always wanted equity.
Yeah,
I've always wanted equity, and I've always wanted space.
Yeah.
And where I feel like there's not enough equity or space for either women or for Filipinos, I'm just gonna grab it and take it.
Yeah,
so if it's like whatever is not there and we need more of it, I'm just gonna kind of test the waters out, and I feel comfortable doing it because I think my parents have given up on like trying to control me anyway.
I feel that.
So they're like, just you do you.
I love that. What about you, Anabelle? So how would you describe your poetry now? Has that changed since I first saw you? Or?
Yeah, it's changed loads. Only because it's not really crazy existent.
Okay.
It is now.
I mean, it is now. But it's just because it's been so busy, and when we first met, I was just new into London, just starting to find my feet, like still kind of like relatively new to poetry, so just kind of starting watching different events and stuff, nothing crazy, but I came into poetry, I came into spoken word, really surprising. So I'm the same, like I used to write in school. I used to write like page poetry, like every second line rhymes. And I still have mine as well from when I was a kid, and they're funny. I mean, it's whatever. But music's always been my thing. I've always been really passionate about music. Always absolutely loved listening to music, singing. I taught myself how to play the piano when I was a kid. I taught myself how to play the guitar shortly after that. And but writing's always been something I've been confident in, because with the music, it's always something I've had for me and maybe my family, but never been confident enough to share it with anyone else. Whereas with writing, you know, there isn't, I can put all the emotion on paper as I want, but I've never felt any way about sharing it with people.
Yeah.
And so I've always been confident to just write what I need to write and then just be like, here, you can read this, like, no dramas. So when I came into spoken word, it was really crazy, actually. I don't know if you know Tori Kelly, the artist.
Yeah, the singer. She's
Yeah,
got
the
a
singer.
song. She just dropped a song recently.
She came to Birmingham just before, literally, I think it was like 2 weeks before we got locked down. And I was dying to see her, so I drove up to Birmingham with a friend, stood in the queue waiting to get in, and this girl that was stood behind us, she dropped something on the floor, and you know, she was like looking around and stuff, so we helped her, found her earring, and then we got chatting, and she was like, oh yeah, like I'm a poet, and I was like, oh, I was like, that's really cool. I was like, and she was like, yeah, like spoken word, and I was like, oh, like what's that like? And you know, so she showed me her Instagram and she showed me like some of her stuff, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, I've never really even given spoken word poetry a thought before. Like, I don't even know what it's like, what it looks like, or how you know, articulate it. And I don't know, do you know Co?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Colin,
Yeah, so it's Co.
Colin from Birmingham.
Yeah.
Shout out to Colin.
Yeah.
I love her.
So it was Co, and you know, we kept in touch. I followed her on Instagram, and that's when the lockdown happened.
Yeah.
People started joining everyone's lives, and I saw that she was going live quite a lot, so I hopped in on one of her lives and I was watching away, and that's when I saw Haz. And they read, they performed one of their pieces.
Shout out to Haz as well.
Yeah, big shout out to Haz.
Yeah.
They performed one of their pieces. It was a sexy piece. Oh my gosh, like, this is unbelievable. Like, what is this new art, dark art? And honestly, like, it kind of sprung from there, and because of them too, you know, and I said this before and I say it again, like, they really inspired me to start writing and start exploring what it's like to write spoken word, because I feel like it's very different to, you know, page poetry, and I'm still low-key still there trying to figure out what it's like, what it's all about, but I managed to bang out a few pieces in that summer, and I just kind of like slowly been just writing lines every now and then, but I've not really had so much time recently to pick it back up. I've just been waiting to kind of get my head back into that creative space, so I can really feel those, you know, creative flows going again.
Yeah. Those two poets are probably the best people to ever run into, because they are like good. I
know, they're insane.
Hazel runs Shits and Scribbles, and I actually did the logo for
Did
that.
You?
Yeah.
Nice.
So the Shits and Scribbles logo I made. But Hazel started doing erotic poetry nights, which you might like, Shen.
Yeah, I love that.
Straps and Paddles. Which,
That's the one.
I
think you've just taken a break.
Yeah, there's this thing.
Just taking a break at the minute.
And then Justin, I kind of came across your poetry through my friend Demi, who you've been to her poetry event. How was that, like, your poetry journey from wherever you started writing to like performing?
I think so. I've always been into journaling.
Yeah,
that was my first like foray into writing, and just kind of getting my thoughts on paper, and meditation and yoga and things like that. And then, I mean, to be honest, I basically just dated a poet. I dated a girl who was a yoga instructor and a poet, and she got me into it. She was going to like creative writing workshops, and she was writing poetry, and I was just, you know, I was like, whoa, it's cool. Like,
so that in the UK scene and the London scene?
Yeah, but she was actually from India, but she was here for a bit, and then she was just very into poetry, so she got me into it. She pulled me into it. She pulled me into that world. We were going to writing workshops, and you know, having fun, and then we broke up, and then, you know, I started writing poems. But
break up poetry.
But then I was in the space already, and I'd already realized that it was this really nice creative outlet, and that just the kind of mindful experience of writing and thinking about how you want to express yourself, and how you want, you know, that was the main thing for me in terms of like writing poetry and making it that all making it sound good all kind of came later. And then a friend of mine was running a spoken word night at the Natural History Museum, which is predominantly where I'm based. And she was like, just write something and just perform it. And I was like, all right, cool. And I put all this pressure on myself to like write something amazing by my standard.
Yeah.
And I realized I put too much pressure on myself, that I was like, I was kind of boxing in my creative energy. So I just had to write freely, and I just wrote I just wrote whatever I felt like. And then I went to this event, and I didn't realize like it was such a big event. So I got there and I was like, oh, I'm here to, you know, read my poem, etc. And there was literally a queue. It was like 150 people in like one of the studios at the museum. I was like, this is the first time I'm ever reading anything. Bro, I was nervous as hell, man. But I went up and I read it, and it got really good, you know, it got really good feedback, if I'm being honest. Like one guy shouted out, he was like, yo, that was like the realest stuff I've ever heard, you know.
Wow.
And so that was a good first experience in terms of performing. I think people tell me that I'm a lover and that like I'm very emotional. So when I perform, I'm always true to that. So that always comes out quite heavily. And then since then, I met Toya Demi on that night. She was like, I'm a poet. Amazing. And so I started going to some of her workshops and just kind of dabbling in the kind of spoken word scene, but also writing a lot anyway. Like I'm very into philosophy, and I write a lot around that, you know, just kind of thinking about ideas and different bits from philosophy as well. And then just kind of building a small, you know, obviously meeting you guys, but meeting other poets in London. And just kind of keeping tabs on that as well.
So obviously we've got the poetry event next week. Do you guys have an idea of what you're going to share, or are you writing something new?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything for a while, so it's, you know, if there's any reason to get back into it, might as well just jump straight in. I don't really know yet what I'm going to perform though. So I mean, I've got like one banker one, and then maybe see if I can knock something up this week. Nice. I got some things. There's a lot been going on recently, actually, specifically to do with culture and my identity with the Philippines and that. So that's a separate conversation. But so hopefully I can take something from that and bring it in.
I don't know what I'm gonna write. Similar to Anabelle, I'm still thinking about what I want to write, and probably trying to pressure write this week. But I'm just excited to sit down with bunch of Filipino poets and see what's going on. Do you know what I mean? That sounds dope with food and let's do it.
I'm excited as well.
Just celebrate us and celebrate. You know, we've all come from different backgrounds, but we share something, and to be able to come together and share that is amazing. You know.
I don't have anything. I haven't decided yet. Basically, it could just be from from what I've written before, but I could. If I find time this week, I might just kind of put something together.
Well, you was there from last year, so what was your take from last year's?
Oh, everyone's so talented. Like, I was so happy to not just meet the poets, but like the audience as well.
Yeah, they're quite supportive.
Like a talented. I didn't know that there was a big poetry scene anyway. And then to meet Filipino poets, I think that's quite special. So, and then there was Pancit. And
shout out to JKH with the Pancit.
Yeah.
Hey.
And
it was
like
vegan
rice.
as well.
Nice.
There was rice and spring
vegan
rolls.
as well.
Okay.
Amazing.
So, I expect the same thing.
So, what's important as well, like I was going to ask you, is like, what are you making for next week? What are you bringing?
I don't cook, so I'm going to have to buy.
I'm going to say I'm not really a cooker either. Like, I tried
to enter the supermarket.
Pancit canton from someone's shop.
Okay.
Filling up the
Some hot
sticker.
water.
Chicharron.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Bring snacks. I'll go to the Chinese shop and get some snacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually going to go to the Pinoy shop and just get all the Philly crisps, like Clover,
Chippy.
Boy Bow Wow, Chippy, all that stuff, and then maybe the other stuff that's probably not good for your blood pressure. Because Filipino food is not good for your blood pressure.
No.
Half the time, but yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's like one of the leading causes of death.
Yeah, it
Food, cholesterol.
From obviously generationally, like you inherit that stuff. You inherit certain issues, obviously, because your family have been eating Filipino food for years. Like you just inherit that stuff. So that's all genes.
Filipino
It's
food.
more genes than stereotypes. But yeah, that is the thing. Like,
Genetic stereotypes.
we're trying to break those stereotypes, but you can't break your DNA.
Can't get rid of gout.
Yeah, can't
Become a
get out.
poet.
You just gotta regulate that stuff. You know, a lot of apple cider vinegar water, cherries.
Yeah.
After
Yeah.
your gut microbiome.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, since we got like 10 minutes left, do you guys want to plug anything or share anything before we go, or to bring up anything else that we haven't touched on?
For me,
Yeah.
I think because there are a lot of Filipinos in spaces that are predicted to be very vulnerable in the next few years, I think my kind of message would be to try AI out, but then from a creative perspective as well. So AI will never, replace that human creativity, but I think there is a world where people can augment how they create and scale their creativity using tools that would help them kind of become more creative. So like one of my dreams when I was younger was to become a filmmaker. But and that's why I actually tried to move to the States, and I was there and I was considering actually should I was a decision away, but I decided to move to China instead. But anyway, now with the tools that are available to me, it's made it easier for me to actually think more creatively and consider, okay, I've got a script here. Maybe if I just feed it some sort of tool that actually actualizes one of the dreams that I've had. So like I think that people can actually explore a lot of their dead dreams because AI is making it more possible to scale your productivity and give you more time to do other things apart from just working 9 to 5.
With the rise of AI, like not only is it easier for companies and other things for like Filipinos who are workers to like maybe be made redundant, but it also gives them an opportunity for them to create something of themselves with the technology
Make
that's also
money
available.
from it as well, yeah, for sure. Create, make money. So like Klarna, for example, they let go a lot of their customer service team a couple weeks back, and I can predict that it's gonna be a common theme, and because the Philippines is cheap labor right now, will probably be there's argument to be made that businesses won't get rid of us, but up until when they're able to actually replace the entire service with an AI tool, then what is everyone else gonna do who are in the call center kind of space, or I don't know, creator space, like working there's a lot of outsourced work in content marketing in the Philippines. What are they gonna do? So I'm actually going home end of May. I'm hoping to introduce Launch Lemonade to some schools. My nephew, he had his exam a couple weeks back, and I taught him how to build an AI, basically how to build a GPT within my platform. After 5 minutes, he built 3 tutors, one for chemistry, actually, one for coding, and then 1 note taker. And this note taker is super cool. He would just upload an entire workbook, and it would generate top questions and key takeaways that you have to remember. And he's used that to study with. He's 15 years old.
Wow.
So, like, I'm really excited about how Filipinos be able to adapt. Like, if he can adapt that quickly, why not others?
That's amazing. For me, when I went back to the Philippines, it was about being in a space where people looked like me, like people, weren't necessarily all the same color, but like, it was just so familiar.
I
And it
bet
was
they
just,
love your skin color. They're like,
it was
"Oh,
just really nice to kind of be in that space where, you know, I'm not the odd one out. Or I am, but like not as much. So yeah, like breaking barriers. I think if people, young people especially, like stuff they want to do, they just gotta go and do it. They just gotta, you know, figure out how they're gonna make it happen and make it happen. Because I really, really love seeing those changes and seeing that culture kind of adapting and changing and progressing into something to be a bit more proud of. Like we laugh and joke about the, you know, the chinelas and the belts and all this, and you know that really strict conservative culture.
The ass whooping we get.
The beat down.
And we've all been there though, you know.
Yeah.
We've all been there. We've all been threatened, and we've all been told all these things, and it's just like, let's now like grow into something a bit more special that we can look back on and, okay, yeah, there were hard lessons and they built us to the generation we are now, but I guess it's just making something even better. And my second plug, if it's all right,
Yeah, go for it.
if anyone's interested in rugby, there is the big game at Twickenham Stadium on the 4th of May. It'll be the men's playing first, Army Navy, and then the women, hopefully, if I get selected, it'll be me.
On the first.
Playing at 16:45, we kick off, and that'll be
Nice.
a big one, yeah. So come through, come support.
Share the link and Meta will add it on the
Yeah,
description.
I'll put it in the description box below on the YouTube video. Also, yeah, like, what about you, Justin? What have you got going? Talk about?
I think the one thing I'd like to plug is if there are folks that are interested in the intersection between science and academia and research and ecology, but also creative writing, poetry, or just any kind of creative art form, because I look at nature from a scientific perspective, right? Using the scientific method and, you know, all the other stuff that I do, but I'm also interested in how we can communicate themes around nature from poetry, and that's what I explore as well. So I do like to write about nature as well. And so I'm involved in a few networks in London. One's an academic one, which is about increasing ethnic diversity within the environmental sector, and we do lots of workshops and seminars and things like that to upskill people of colour, kind of further back in the career path. And so, like, I'm a PhD student, so how can I help undergrad or master's students? What sort of things they need to do in order to progress their career? And then there's a few more kind of naturey, bird watching or whatever your kind of thing is, groups that are about just connecting people in London with the outdoors, and making nature more accessible in the broadest sense, realizing that nature is for everyone, and that regardless of your background or where you come from, you have a right to connect with nature in whatever that might look like. And so whether that's working with young kids or school groups or, you know, all sorts of different groups, trying to connect them with nature, that's one of my other passions outside of doing research. So just the intersectionality between that is something that I'm exploring at the moment. So yeah.
Where can we find you?
Thing is, I'm not really on IG that much anymore because I find it
Mental health
a bit vapid sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm just I think it's got its tools and it's got its benefits, but how could you find me? What would I say if I don't use social media?
If you want to find Justin,
We'll sort it out.
Ask
it'll be on the
someone else.
screen. It'll be on the screen right here where he's
Where I'm
sitting.
sitting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, before I forget, I
Yeah.
need to plug the channel.
Oh yeah, go plug your channels. Yeah.
So we're on YouTube. We've just launched this game that we play. So we do a name wheel, and it lands on a random job. And my co-founder and I challenged to build an AI business for that job. So the other day we did an AI business for an escape room designer.
Oh, nice.
The other day it was for a hairstylist. The other day it was for a declutterer. So we do that weekly at Launch Lemonade. And then I also do, I have my own channel at Cien Solon. And I just talk to ChatGPT and I ask it philosophical questions. So
Wow.
that's a series on
Nice.
YouTube that I've just launched as well.
Cool. That'll be at the bottom
Yeah,
of the
that
screen.
sounds cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
What about you, Anna?
I think that's pretty much me. Other than
Yeah, your
obviously
plugs and
any
stuff.
any poetry that I have put out or whatever is Empathic Wanderer on IG, and obviously big up the Army Rugby.
Actually, I got a question. Like, do you want to be called or introduced on the next week as Empathic Wanderer or as Anabelle? Because for marketing, I was like, do I put Empathic Wanderer or do I put Anabelle? Because I've been mixing it up in the
Yeah,
promo.
I
so
mean,
was just like-
honestly, that's a good question because I don't know myself. So keep
Yeah.
mixing it up, whatever you want.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
easy.
And then I'll come to her like,
it'll
Yeah,
come. All right.
neither.
yeah, neither.
Yeah, you might even come up with a new name afterwards.
I might do.
Yeah.
I might do. Change
It's
my
been
handle.
ever evolving and changing. And that's cool though. But yeah, if you guys want to catch them, they'll be you can catch them on YouTube once this podcast is up, but also when the Windows to the Spirits event is done, and you can watch their sets on YouTube. Other than that, you can find me at the Metaforest, the Metaphor EST, all one word, Instagram, YouTube, and then yeah, the Metaforecast, which is spelled with an F and an O. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're just gonna go wave bye to the cameras. Bye, and then this one,
Oh yeah, this one.
There you go.
and then we'll see you soon. Bye.
Cheers.
Yay!
Oh my god. I love that.
That was so fun.
That's cool.
I feel like podcasts are a dangerous thing for me because I could chat shit for
Oh my
so
god, I
long.
chat shit so much. Like, I
People
used to-
just need to be like,
I
Anabelle,
could
shut
chat too
up.
much shit.
Yeah.